It's amazing. I mean, I played her when she kind of broke out last year in Miami, and you know, I'm from there, and the whole crowd was against me, and I was like, what on earth is going on? Like, where do these people come from? And then week after week, as she, you know, has done well and established herself as a really good player on tour, they all come out to support her. And so I think we saw that in Australia when it was kind of overcrowded. They put her on too small of a court. We saw it here. You can hear it from the hotel. You can hear the crowd roaring, especially at night. So it's incredible.
Jessica Pegula just won the Dubai Tennis Championships and walked straight into a press conference where someone asked her about alexeala. What came out of her mouth next was not the diplomatic, carefully worded response you get when a player is trying to be polite. It was something else entirely, and the Filipino fans who heard it are still celebrating right now. After hearing what Jessica Pegula said about alexeala and her fans, do you think the rest of the WTA Tour is starting to fully respect what the Filipino fan base brings to women's tennis? Let us know in the comments.
I think it was Eala is the match that I was looking at, and there was people like wrapped around the stadium just trying to get in, which is pretty crazy. And I mean, it's cool to see and it's exciting, but obviously, you know, for fan experience, I don't know because I'm not living that same experience. But hopefully, the event kind of continues to grow with the fans that we're getting and making that still an enjoyable experience for them. But I did see some of the courts have like lines getting in and it seems really busy, and I saw some reports that it's some of their busiest they've ever been and it's packed and, you know, all that, which is, I think, great. I mean, obviously it shows that the event is growing, the sport is growing, and that's, you know, amazing. I think for...
Let's start with who Jessica Pegula is in this conversation, because it matters for understanding why her words carry the weight they do. PGA is not someone who has been watching Eala from a comfortable distance and forming opinions based on social media clips. She has played her in Miami in 2025. She was the one who ended Eala's run in the semifinals of the WTA 1000 event, the same run where Eala had beaten Galina Ostapenko, Madison Keys, and Iga hit back-to-back to announce herself to the tennis world in a way that nobody could dismiss or explain away. So when Pegula talks about Eala, she is talking about someone she has competed against at a critical moment. She knows what it feels like to be on the other side of the net. She knows what the crowd situation looks like from the perspective of someone playing against Eala rather than watching from the stands. And what she said in Dubai right after winning the tournament final against Aryna was as direct and specific as anything that has been said publicly about Eala's rise by an active player on tour. She said, "Alex is amazing." That was her opening. Not she's had a good run or she's shown some promise. Amazing. Then she talked about the way Eala packs stadiums and the way her country supports her, calling it something special. Then she went into the maturity and grace with which Eala handles the attention, the constant media pressure, the crowd expectations, the weight of representing an entire nation every time she steps on a court. And then she got into the personal part. She said she played Eala when she kind of broke out last year in Miami. And then she said something that you almost never hear from a player, talking about a match they won. She said the whole crowd was against her. She said she was standing on the court thinking, what on earth is going on? Where did these people come from? Jessica Pegula, daughter of the Buffalo Bills owner, American player playing in Miami, which has one of the highest Filipino population concentrations in the eastern United States. And she was the visiting player in her own country's tournament because the Filipino fans had completely taken over that venue and made it feel like Eala's home court. Pegula won the match and she's still talking about the crowd situation more than a year later because apparently it left that much of an impression. That detail deserves more attention than it's been getting. Miami 2025 was Eala's first major breakthrough moment on the WTA circuit. She was not yet a household name in tennis circles outside the Filipino community. She was ranked outside the top 100 going into that event. And yet the crowd she generated in Miami was so overwhelming that the player who beat her, an American playing in an American city, described the experience as playing against her own country's crowd. That is not a normal situation. That is not something that happens at most tennis tournaments at most levels of the sport. Pegula saw it again in Dubai. She noted that you could hear the crowd roaring from the hotel, not from the court area, from the hotel. The sound of Filipino fans cheering for Eala was carrying far enough through the venue and the surrounding grounds that players in their rooms could hear it at night. That image, a player lying in a hotel bed listening to crowds chanting for her next opponent, is one of the more vivid descriptions of what the ELA effect actually sounds and feels like on the ground. And then she connected all of it to what it means for the sport. She said she thinks it's awesome for what Eala is doing for tennis. She called Eala a perfect role model. She said she's sure Eala wants to inspire girls, Filipino girls specifically, to play tennis and go after their dreams. And she finished by saying it's awesome for the sport twice, as if saying it once wasn't enough to fully communicate how much she meant it. Now, let's sit with the "where did these people come from" comment for a second, because it is genuinely one of the more accidentally revealing things a tennis player has said in a press conference in recent memory. Pegula wasn't being dismissive. The context makes it clear she was expressing genuine surprise and a kind of admiring bewilderment. But the comment exposes something that the tennis establishment has been slow to fully reckon with. The Filipino fan base was always there, already present in every city with a significant Filipino diaspora, fully capable of mobilizing at scale and completely overlooked by the WTA's marketing and scheduling machinery until one player gave them a reason to show up in numbers that couldn't be ignored. They didn't come from nowhere. They came from the cities they already lived in: Miami, Los Angeles, New York, Melbourne, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. And they showed up because alexeala gave them something to show up for. The infrastructure of the fan base existed long before the tennis results justified the attention. The results just activated it. This is an important distinction for anyone trying to understand what's happening around Eala's rise. This is not a manufactured fan base built through social media campaigns and promotional budgets. This is an organic community that has been waiting for a player to root for. And when Eala started winning matches against top 10 players and making deep runs at prestigious events, the community responded in a way that has physically overwhelmed multiple venues across 3 continents. In the span of about 12 months, Melbourne, the crowds around her matches were so large at the Australian Open that the side courts assigned to her matches became a crowd management issue. Standing room only is the polite description. The Australian Open, which broke its own attendance records in recent years and regularly hosts a full complement of top players, simultaneously was not prepared for what happened when Eala played there. Dubai, every single match sold out, according to tournament director Salah Tolik, who also said he had never seen anything like it in his entire tenure running the event. A tournament that has hosted world number ones and Grand Slam champions for years, and a player ranked outside the top 30 produced something unprecedented there. Indian Wells practice courts with fans pressing through fences before competitive play even began. A safety concern raised publicly by a former ATP professional on broadcast. The largest tennis tournament in the United States, which set an all-time attendance record in 2025 without Eala even in the draw, now managing crowd situations around a seeded player making her first appearance at the event. And through all of it, Eala's response has been consistent. Pegula noted this directly. She said Eala handles it with maturity and grace, seems genuinely appreciative, and always has a good head on her shoulders. That observation matters because the pressure of being the focal point of this much attention at 20 years old, carrying the expectations of an entire nation, managing the media obligations that come with that level of visibility, all of that can break players who aren't mentally equipped for it. Eala's press conferences, her post-match interviews, her social media presence, all of it reflects someone who is genuinely grateful for the support without being overwhelmed by it. She came on social media after her Dubai run just to thank fans directly and personally, saying that the time and effort they put into showing up and cheering meant so much to her. That kind of authentic appreciation reinforces the emotional connection with the fan base in a cycle that feeds itself. Coco Gauff praised the Filipino fans after her Dubai match against Eala. Amanda Anisimova gave her assessment, and now Pegula, the player who was actually on the other side of the net at Eala's breakout moment in Miami, has weighed in with what might be the most detailed, most personal, and most genuinely enthusiastic testimonial from an active WTA player yet. When 3 American players all independently volunteer praise for the same player and the same fan base in the span of a few weeks, the pattern is not a coincidence. These are competitors talking about someone they've played against and someone whose presence on tours is changing the experience for everyone around her. Players notice the crowds. They notice the atmosphere. They notice when a colleague walks onto a practice court and generates a safety concern. And they notice when a hotel is audible from the stands because the fans outside are that loud. The sponsor angle is also worth noting because it connects the cultural phenomenon to the commercial reality of what Eala represents. Reports are emerging that she is rumored to be the target of significant sponsorship offers from major brands looking to capitalize on her popularity. This is the moment when the market catches up to what the crowds have been announcing for over a year, that there is a player with a global mobilized financially active fan base who is also winning matches and climbing rankings. For brands trying to reach the Filipino market or trying to reach a young sports-passionate demographic across Southeast Asia and the diaspora communities in every major Western city, that combination is extraordinarily attractive. And here is the part that makes all of this more than a story about one good season. Eala is 20 years old. Her career high of 28 in the world was achieved before Indian Wells, where she has the opportunity to go deeper in a draw. She's entering seated for the first time. The Miami Open immediately follows. Indian Wells in Miami is the city where this whole story started, where Pegasus stood on the court and genuinely asked herself where all the people had come from. If Eala goes deep in both Indian Wells and Miami this year, the points accumulated push her into territory that changes everything about how she's seeded at Grand Slams, who she faces in early rounds, and how much of the biggest stages in tennis she gets to compete on in the later rounds against the very best players. That structural advantage compounds in exactly the right direction for someone whose game has been developing fast enough that the results are already backing up the crowd numbers. Pegasus praise is the latest in a line of acknowledgments from players at the highest the level of the tour that something genuinely unusual is happening around Alexeala, but Peg carries a specific weight because it comes from someone who played her in the match that started this entire conversation, who stood on a court in Miami surrounded by Filipino fans who felt what it's like to be on the other for a side of that specific experience. She said, she was like, what on earth is going on? And she said it with a kind of tone that makes clear the question was never really about confusion. It was about recognition. She was recognizing something that the Filipino fan base had been building toward for years, that Eala had been building toward for years, and that the tennis world was only just starting to see clearly. The answer to where all those people came from is actually very simple. They were always there. Eala just gave them a reason to be visible. That is everything Jessica Pegula said about Alexeala and the Filipino fans and what it all means for where this story is headed. If this got you hyped, hit that like button and tell us in the comments what moment in Eala's career has impressed you the most. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. More is coming. All.